Good morning, and I'd like to add my welcome to this service this morning. My name is Kirsty, and I'm one of the local preachers in the circuit here, and it is such a joy to be able to come and join you in your service, so thank you for including me this morning.
Genesis 12, verses 1 to 9. The call of Abram. The Lord had said to Abram, "Go from your country, your people, and your father's household to the land I will show you. I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you I will curse. And all the people on earth will be blessed through you." So Abram went, as the Lord had told him, and Lot went with him. Abram was 75 years old when he set out from Haran. He took his wife Sarai, and his nephew Lot, all the possessions they had accumulated, and the people they had acquired in Haran. When they set out for the land of Canaan, they arrived there. Abram travelled through the land as far as the site of the great tree of Moreh, at Shechem. At the time, the Canaanites were in the land. The Lord appeared to Abram and said, "To your offspring I will give this land." So he built an altar there to the Lord who had appeared to him. From there he went on towards the hills east of Bethel, and pitched his tent, with Bethel on the west and Ai on the east. There he built an altar to the Lord, and called on the name of the Lord. Then Abram set out and continued towards the Negev.
So we're continuing in the series that we've been looking at through the Bible with key characters from the Bible. And I'm very grateful to Jill and those who've come before me who have taken on some of the more difficult passages, because now we are onto the character of Abram. And we find Abram at quite a pivotal moment in his life. His father and his family have been called to the land of Canaan, but they haven't quite got there. They've got halfway there. And God comes to Abram and says to him, "Look, what I want you to do is to leave your father's family, leave everything behind, and come and follow me. Come and follow me to the land that I'm about to give to you." And we know that God and Abram make a covenant together, and Abram will choose God to be his God, and God will choose Abram to be the first in this in his people, in his children who he walks with, the Jewish people, the Israelites as they become known, and he's a sort of father to this great nation that God works closely with. And it all comes back to this moment of decision for Abram, because God is calling him away from everything that he's ever known, all of his previous experiences, and from the leadership of his father and those older people in the tribe, to come and stand out and decide himself to do what God wants. And what I find really interesting is the few verses where God is explaining to Abram what he is going to offer him to do that, to follow him. And he says, "I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing." And that struck me because I had quite a similar experience, well, in today's age, to Abram's. And I thought I'd like to share that with you to explain why I think it's so significant. About 7 years ago, I was living in Ipswich, which is right on the east coast of the country. And I'd been in my job for 3 years, but it was a job that was 16-hour days. And I loved it, but I was getting to the end of what I could do and what I could give to that role. And I was looking at what to do next. And I felt God calling me to Malawi. I'd been there on a short-term mission trip a couple of times before, and I really felt God saying, "It's time to go back." And I prayed with my minister, who invited me to take on the youth work role in that church, which I would have loved to do. I got on very well with the young people, and I was very settled. And I made a deal with God, and I said, "If you provide the money, I'll go to Malawi. Otherwise, I'll stay in my happy life here." And I got home and there was a cheque for £3,000 on the doorstep from a family I hadn't seen in years. And I thought, well, if that's, I mean, there's no clearer sign than that you should go. What God didn't tell me was what I was going to do. So I took it into my own hands and I started to research all of the different opportunities that there might be for me to serve in Malawi. And I looked into different mission organisations and into different roles, and none of them seemed right. God kept saying no. And the end of my job was coming closer and closer, and I knew that God was calling me to go. So I used the money and I booked the tickets. And I was thinking, God, this is in your hands. You've told me to go, and I'm not quite sure where I'm going to. And it got to the day of getting on the plane, and I couldn't give my mother an address of where I would be, which it was great for her. And I remember getting onto that plane and feeling really worried and afraid about what I was going to end up doing. And as I sat on the plane, I opened a card of encouragement. It's one of the things that Christians are often very good at and mean a huge amount, from a friend. And in it, she had put in a Bible verse from the Message version of 1 Peter 3 verse 9. And it said, bless. That's your job, to bless. You'll be a blessing and you'll get a blessing. It's a very similar verse to the one that Abraham is having here. I'll repeat it again in case you haven't got your Bibles open. I will make you into a great nation and I will bless you. I'll make your name great and you will be a blessing. That thing of when we bless, we receive a blessing. I'll finish off the story of what I did in case you're sat there worrying about me. On the plane, I met a couple who worked at an orphanage and who said to me, we are desperate for somebody to come and start up junior churches and to help in the local school. And a huge number of God moments happened to get me there. They lost my phone number when they went to check if I could go, but they found the phone number of a random person who I met in the town who had me to stay for the first week that I was in Malawi, and it all sorted itself out. And I ended up working at an orphanage for the time that I was there, and I was certainly blessed, and I hope that I was a blessing to the community there. It was a totally different life for me, living in Malawi to living in this country. The way that people dress is different. It's incredibly rude to wear trousers that show the top of your legs. If you're a woman in Malawi, you have to wear a skirt that comes to below your knees. However, if you want to wear a top that only comes to your waist, that's absolutely fine. It's funny, the differences in culture. The food is very different. There is definitely not meat every day. It's once a week and fish once a week, and the rest is made up of kidney beans and nsima. The people I spent time with spoke a different language. And the way of communicating changed a huge amount. The houses looked different. But what really surprised me was the fact that my purpose every day was exactly the same there as it has been here. Here, I had been spending my time trying to tell children about Jesus, and there I spent my time trying to tell children about Jesus. The things, the gifts and the skills that God gave me here are the same when I'm in Malawi. So the particular things that I really like, I enjoy hospitality. And actually you can offer hospitality in this country and in Malawi. I am not a prophet, but if you're a prophet, it didn't matter that the circumstances were different. You could be a prophet here or there. The job description was the same. And actually the job description came down to that verse that was given to me, to bless other people and to receive a blessing in return. And it's the same job description that Abraham is given right at the beginning of this incredible journey he's about to go on with God, to be a blessing and to get a blessing. And Abraham does go off and he has a huge number of adventures where he has to put God first, and where he almost loses his wife and pretends that she's his sister. But his job description comes from God. To be a blessing, when we bless others, those blessings come from God and we offer them on to other people. And when we receive a blessing, we're receiving it from God, sometimes through other people. And actually our circumstances don't change that at all. And I think that's particularly poignant at the moment because our circumstances have changed so much. And I don't know how each of you are feeling, but it can be really difficult. If we have been somebody who has been on a rota for years and years and years, if you have been the person welcoming people at the door and suddenly that job doesn't exist, it can feel really, well, you can get really downcast about it. Because what is my identity? What is my role? If you're the person who loves making tea and coffee and biscuits and offering them out to people, and suddenly that role seems to disappear, it can make us feel really low. But the truth is that our job description, the purpose that we have, hasn't changed. We are still called to be a blessing, both individually and as a church. And I think as a Methodist church, that's really exciting. I've done the local preachers course, and on it we get to explore the history of the Methodist Church. And what comes out time and time again is the enthusiasm that the church has for living out God's blessing on his people and on all nations. So in the history of the Methodist Church, the trade unions, in combination with the Labour Party at the time, were begun by Methodists. Many of the very first children's homes were started by Methodists. Schools were opened by Methodists. There's been a huge amount of blessing into Britain and countries across the world by the Methodist Church. And we are still part of that. Our purpose has not changed. We can still bless the people around us because the need is still there. Those mums who used to come to our toddler groups or to the coffee time, or I think at one of the churches is a clothes swap, those people still need that interaction, that support, that encouragement in their daily lives. They're people who have come to our church because they're lonely and they feel isolated and they need that human interaction. That need is still there. And we are still called to bless them. And the way that we do that might look different. It might be more on the phone. We might spend more time in prayer for them than in chat with them. We might have to drop things off and walk away rather than have them come into our buildings. We might have to do more things online. But the need is still there, and our role in meeting that need through the blessing that we can bring is still very much alive. And the amazing thing about that is that as we bless other people, we in turn do receive that blessing. There is nothing that feels better than knowing that God is including us in his plan and seeing that we can be of value and of use to those other people. Our job's the same. So just as Abram did, let's keep blessing.